The first thing on the agenda is Chris Schramm, Sheriff 911 Software Commissary Ordinance. No, I think we're good.
I think it's good I'm going in front of Nathan this time. He's always pretty long-winded. Even in here? I think he left. I provided each one of you, a copy of the end of the year jail report. That's very informative. It shows you the number of prisoners, the average daily count. It'll show you the revenue we brought in for the county. I thought that was very informative. Stephen Taylor did a very good job on that. I provide that with Facebook and also the journal. I think I've given them a copy of it too. Parts of it. Obviously, I can't give them everything, but that's very informative. And I also gave you a copy of the end of the year commissary report, the numbers. If you have any questions about that, I can surely answer them for you. The other thing that I'm asking for this year is an approval. Would like to get an ordinance, an approval for an ordinance. I ran this by our county attorney, Mr. Ayler. I'm always confused on what I get approval to spend money on. As you all know, the state sets 9 things that I can spend money on a commissary, and you all know that's not tax money, it's jail-generated prisoner money that's set by statute. The 9th thing is anything we agree upon, you being the fiscal body. What I did is reached out to 2 other sheriffs, Jasper County Sheriff Pat Williamson and Ed Schroeder, and got some ideas what they do. And they create an ordinance, so I don't have to come back every year and say, hey, can I spend money on this or this or this or this? And I spelled that out in the ordinance to you guys. If you have any questions, I'd like to get approval for that tonight so we can just simply create an ordinance so I can spend money on this or that. And that's what that's about. So that would take the guesswork out of it for me. We just went through our audit with the State Board of Accounts, one under the past sheriff and 1 year under me, and we come through with flying colors. I'm proud to say that. So we're on the right track. But I just want to make sure we're covered. And Mr. Ayler said move forward with this thing that's in front of you. He looked it over and didn't see any problems with it.
I'll make a motion to accept the ordinance.
I got a motion. I hear a second. I got a motion and a second to sign the ordinance as presented. All those in any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Who seconded?
Jerry did.
Jerry. Motion carried.
Thank you. It makes my job a lot easier. I appreciate it.
Next on the agenda is Judge Coker.
Good evening. How's everyone? I am here today with regard to transfer requests. I wanted to go in front of you to make sure that everyone understands the way these transfer requests are being done. These transfer requests are actually requests that are going to be reimbursed by grants. So it's not county funding that we are using. It's money that we included in our budget for the grants that we received. We're asking for money to be transferred in order for us to purchase office equipment, which brings me to another point, which is I think that the county now is on a rotation, according to Rowing, with regard to replacement of office computers and things of that nature. I spoke with Rowing. We have money from our grant for Veterans Court, Drug Court, to be able to purchase equipment for our offices because we use them for the problem-solving courts. And so what I would like to do with that money is go ahead and purchase the computers for my staff, myself, my laptop, that would be covered, according to Rowing, by the county next year. So we won't need that for our offices in Superior Court. We'll be able to pay for it with a grant this year. The only equipment then we'll need yet next year on that rotation would be the 3 computers in the courtroom rather than all of our computers. So I did have Rowing put together an estimate for me on that. I've prepared that. I did bring it if you'd like to see it. Care to see it or not, since it's all grant funded, but that is what the transfer request is for. And also just to put you all on notification that that money is being spent so that it won't have to be used out of county funds next year. So that's the transfer with regard to the equipment. With regard to the contracted services,
Can I ask
that
a
is money
question?
that's going to be used for our public defender. And I'm sorry, do you have a
Can I
question?
ask a question about
Sure.
the office equipment? So if we're purchasing it through a grant and grant money, does that mean it's county property or does that mean
It will be. yes.
Okay.
So all of it goes on our property sheet that we do each year. We just keep updating that. Yeah. Other questions? No? Okay. With regard to the contracted services, that money is to pay for our public defender who's used in our drug court and our vet court, as well as case management. Again, those are funds that are going to be reimbursed through that FSSA grant. The only other transfers we have are because of the update to the matrix for my staff. There are some minimal transfers that are required. That money is actually going to be moved out of our contracted services into the funds in order to pay for staff. Questions on this?
Has any of this been advertised? We need to advertise it?
The actual for the office equipment and the contracted services, we will, and I will advertise that.
So, probably need a motion to get it advertised. And, yeah,
I'll make that motion, then do we want to stick the sheriff's advertisement here too for his? We talked about it in the commissioners meeting that he needs to advertise that one too, so. I'll make the motion to advertise the sheriff's for the 911, upgrade, and then for the judges, we need to advertise for his.
I want to second it.
I can second it.
Got a motion and a second to advertise the transfers. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Thank you.
We got EMA.
I'm requesting additionals back into my budget because I did not realize that you transfer the money that if you weren't changing anything in it. Did talk to Teresa about it, so she had me request the additional back into.
So when she filled out
Yours works.
when she filled out her budget last year when we did our budget hearings, she was new to the process and she thought if she didn't fill anything in, like last year she had so much appropriated for overtime. She thought that if she didn't put anything in the box when she filled it out, then it automatically went with what last year was. So she was very confused, and I get it. New office holders do not get hardly any training, if any, as far as that kind of stuff. So what she's asking for is what she got last year, which is in the additional paperwork that I sent over to you, to add what she would have gotten in her budget. In a nutshell.
So, refresh your memory what that was.
So like dues and subscriptions, last year she got in 23, or in 24, she got $50. Well, when she filled out her budget for 25, she didn't move it over, she thought it automatically did. It was just unfortunate. So what she's asking for is to go back to the $50 she had. Yeah.
So just let the council all, in case somebody didn't see it, or, and the next one was, and the public training was 300, printing and advertising was $75, service and maintenance with WTH was $500, overtime was $3,812, tires and tubes was $795, and disaster preparedness supplies was $200. That's what, is that the fleet
Yes,
amount there, all those?
yes.
Okay.
Motion. Nice.
Got a motion and a second to advertise the additionals as stated. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, the same sign. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, we're ahead of schedule. Let's go with let's change the agenda a little bit and put in we had our attorneys here, or we need to approve attorney contract. So Jacob, if you can explain that to us.
Yes, basically the contract that I have with the commissioners is a separate entity by statute. The county council has the authority to hire its own attorney. So what I did, actually my contract is almost a mirror of what I have in place in Jasper and Benton County. Haven't memorized the amount, but I think it's 6,500 for the year. Is that what it is? It's 6. Okay. 6,000 for the year. My hourly rate at the government for government clients is $215 an hour. And I wanted to explain, it's 215 is not in addition to the 6,000. It's billed against the 6,000. I will tell you, I've been doing county work for 7 years now, and I've never had it go over that. So unless there's an issue that comes up that takes a substantial amount of time, it will not be more than the 6,000 for the year. And I think in the terms of the contract, I can provide timesheets or whatever as requested. So.
Okay. Do you have any discussion?
Thinking about it, would it be wise to have, nothing against you?
No,
I don't know.
no,
Really?
sorry.
Would it be wise to have somebody separate council commissioners? That way have maybe sides of the field instead of one. I think, who else are you serving right now, other than the council or the commissioners?
In Pulaski County or anywhere?
Yeah, in Pulaski.
Well, as of right now, it's just the commissioners. And then, but to answer your question, that's a good point. I will tell you, in Jasper County, I only represent the council. I do not represent the commissioners. In Benton County, I represent both. It's entirely up to you. And if you guys elect to go with somebody else, it's not going to hurt my feelings. That's a good point. That's entirely policy driven.
You look like a really honest guy, and I hope you are.
Hope to be.
But when you can have both sides of it, I feel like dishonesty can start to creep in.
Well, and sometimes having two sets of eyes on
Yeah.
things is good. I mean, that's entirely up to you guys. And if you choose to go with somebody else, you're not going to hurt my feelings. So that's up to you.
That's where I stand. I feel like it's a good
Right.
idea and be wise. I mean, I'm a business owner. I wouldn't have two of my businesses the same. I want something different, put it in different entities. But
Anybody else? Probably gonna have to see if we could even get somebody to even take it. I don't know how good the commissioners had. We're lucky to get Jacob himself. But hey.
volunteer, try finding something.
Well, myself, I'm good with Jacob, so I don't know.
So the $6,500
The-
work off of that.
Yes, and I guess I was corrected, it's 6,000, not 65, but, yeah, so the 6,000, so the time I spend working on county council business, going to meetings, emails, drafting ordinances, et cetera, I bill my hourly rate against that 6,000. So it's not in addition to that 6,000.
So depending on double.
And that's why I made the comment earlier. In the last 7 years, I have never, for my council clients, I have never gone over the 6,000 just because the lion's share of county work is generally done through the commissioners. Most of my county council work is mostly abatement applications and dealing with abatement issues. But what I would do in the way that my contract reads is if the retainer were to come up, you would be given notice of that in advance, and then you have the right to request time entries, you know, to see what I've been working on. But you would have to approve it. If it went above 6,000, you would have to approve that before that would happen. So.
Is that a motion? I hear a second. Got a motion, a second. I heard Jacob as our council attorney. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. 5-2. Thank you. Now, Nathan.
Good evening, everybody. Before I start, I will just kindly remind everyone to use your microphones. I'm getting a couple of comments via the YouTube feed that not everyone is audible to our virtual listeners. So, for the council's consideration this evening, I have resolutions 2025-05 and 2025-06, both of which are preliminary resolutions for Economic Revitalization Area, ERA designations. Resolution 05 is for adjustments to the already approved Mammoth Solar Project, while Resolution 06 is for the proposed Mammoth Grazing Lands Project. Representatives from Doral are here this evening to provide information and to answer questions. As a reminder, adopting a preliminary resolution neither confers ERA designation status on any parcel nor awards any assessed value deduction, the fancy way of saying tax abatement. What adoption of the preliminary resolution does is trigger the process that could lead to the ERA designation and granting of an abatement. Having economic and tax impact studies completed by a third-party consultant, the Economic Development Commission's review of the applications, the impact studies, and other relevant materials, and recommendation to the council, and a council public hearing regarding the requests prior to any action on the confirmatory resolution, which would, if adopted, confer ERA status and abatements. If you adopt one or both of these, I'll get working with Baker Tilly on the studies and give notice to the EDC that it will need to convene. The resolutions call for the hearings to be held in April rather than next month, so that we have plenty of time for EDC and council review. I think that's a lesson we learned with some of the continued discussions we had earlier on. So A, Resolution 2025-05 for Mammoth Solar. Doral has 600 some acres that it wishes to move from the Mammoth project. So this is acreage that has already been approved by the council in the past, to the proposed Mammoth Grazing Project. In light of this, the company wishes to add 684.56 acres plus or minus across 11 parcels to the Mammoth project. And all of those are listed and mapped in the resolution packet for Resolution 2025-05. This requires a new permitting process, and to my understanding, Doral has begun working with our building inspector on this. It also requires a new council tax abatement process if these added parcels are to be subject to the Economic Development Agreement, EDA, executed regarding this project. And I want to offer some clarifying language regarding the order of operations here, given that the building permit does not yet exist. Things are a little bit different for this project, like it was for Bottle Brush, than it was when the first Mammoth project and Moss Creek came through, because the county's UDO does not currently require the BZA special exception process. In general, the council, as a directly elected governing fiscal body, is not subject to the rules stipulated in the UDO, which is a law governing land use. The Indiana Code gives pretty wide latitude to the council when it comes to bestowing an ERA on any parcel or parcels, regardless of the zoning in place. However, Section 7.18.A.2.A of the UDO does explicitly address the county council. It specifically anticipates that the council will undertake this tax abatement process parallel to, rather than after, the building permit process, stating about the EDA. This agreement must be signed by the board and council before any building permit is issued. The applicant owner may withhold building permit payment and any payment guaranteed by the EDA till the Pulaski County Council has noticed and conducted a public hearing pertaining to tax abatement incentives and adopted the resolutions required awarding such incentives. So in short, if you are concerned about approving this because the building permit process hasn't finished yet, that's kind of a moot point because Carla is prohibited from even giving that permit until you have done this job. If you award it and then for some other reason, eventually you pass this, you do the public hearing, eventually award it, and for some reason the building permit falls apart otherwise, no harm is done. You can always rescind the designation if you're so inclined or leave it for a future property owner or developer, but a tax abatement can't be awarded on property that doesn't exist. Second resolution, 2025-06, Mammoth Grazing Lands. Doral intends to develop a second Pulaski County project, Mammoth Grazing Lands, on 7,686.7844 acres plus or minus across 137 parcels, which are listed and mapped in the resolution packet along with resolution 2025-06. I will now hand things over to Doral to speak to the council regarding the projects and to answer any questions that you may have.
Well, good evening. My name is Spencer Tanner. I'm an attorney at Gutwein Law. Here on behalf of the petitioners. I'm filling in tonight, so take it easy on me. So I think everything Nathan said was correct. I think, you know, as he concluded, we're not asking, nobody's asking for a permit. No one's asking for moving forward on any project. I know there were some questions earlier about conflicts and who's going to be benefited. What we're talking about tonight essentially is the ERA preliminary approval designation for potential property tax purposes, right? And so this is to reduce property tax values over a period of time, and that's to encourage development. So in the past, this body has agreed to provide that ERA designation. The issue's gone before trial court, Court of Appeals, and said essentially if it's agricultural land, it's going to be improved, it's eligible to be an ERA designation area. Now, tonight, all we're talking about is preliminary approval. It kind of starts that process. You know, it has to have some of the economic studies and things to look at over the next month or two. And this essentially, the issues will come before this body again on a final hearing. So a lot of the questions that people might have on the project and all of these things will be something that are discussed over the next few months. So this really just starts the process. Not that it's not important, but you know, some of the questions I think will probably be raised tonight are going to be probably answered in the next few months, right? So on the South project, if you think about the ERA designation, it's specific to the parcels that we're talking about. And so Nathan mentioned there was a previous ERA approval and those sort of things. What we have basically has developed over the project has developed is there needs to be kind of a shift in some of those parcels. And so that's kind of the reason for that section. Now, this whole thing is you know, a contemplated a project that has been in place or has been in development since 2022. And so on the Mammoth Grazing Land side, I have some information about what Mammoth North Solar is doing. And a lot of it has to do with the agrivoltaics and some of those things that are positive and beneficial. And so that's really kind of what we imagine for this kind of new project and how to be a good steward with some of these things. So I'm going to give you some information if you guys want to pass it out. And then I have some other folks here and some landowners here if anybody has any questions.
So you said you're gonna shift some of the land. Explain a little more into detail, I guess, of that.
So, I mean, for purposes of tonight, The parcels that we're talking about are totally separate parcels. They need to be designated ERA. But for an overall, I think from the county's perspective, right, how many acres are going to be developed or solar, there is a shift from the previous project, so a reduction in those parcels to these new parcels, just for purposes of how the project is kind of coming together.
Does that mean you have to reapply?
We are applying to tonight. That's the purpose
That's
of
what this
tonight.
is?
Yep. This is starting the process
Just
to
the
do that.
idea, okay.
Yeah. So preliminary approval of these acres for potential confirmation hearing by the county council later on. And if you have any questions right now, I would have some of the landowners speak, and then happy to come back up.
Thank you. I'll be brief. I thought maybe I could give you a little insight. I live here in Pulaski County, but I'm part of the Mammoth Project in Stark County, so I can give you a real visual of it. And that is, I want you to imagine a 144-acre field. Now, to Tim, that's a garden. But some of you, 144-acre field. All right, this is real, and it can be proved. It's public record. On that 144 acres, there were $16,000 paid by the company to the county. I don't know how much the state and the county gets. You know more about that. But on 144 acres, $16,000. That's real money. And that's a real person telling you. And also the Mammoth grazing lands. You might be saying, well, it sounds like they're trying to pull something fast about grazing lands. For those of you, you may never travel 300 north or 700 north, 300 west. My house is 750 north. Most of you won't travel that there's out there in that area of the county in which the Mammoth grazing lands are proposed to be. You have the Winnemac Fish and Game area, and you have very spotty older people that are farmers, and almost every one of those older people have signed up and agree. Very few don't agree. And for you to Stark County to see how what is grazing lands, I'm sure you've got questions. How is it different than just some big solar field? If you would want to take a drive, or if you would want to Google 300 west and 900 north, which is the county line, and if you would just go on 300, which becomes 200 East Stark County, go down a mile, look to your right and left, turn right, go down a mile, and look to your right and left, and come back and look to your mile, basically to the right, well, right and left. And you'll see all the proposed land. You'll see where the panels are at, and you can Google it too. Use Google Earth if you don't want to drive. And you'll see all the places where corn and beans or hay is being raised on the outside of the fence. And you'll see on the inside of the fence, I'm representing my brother. He's in Texas. My brother has the sheep to be able to sustain sheep inside the fence. And it's an ever-growing project, so that the herd is ever-growing as well. But I've got pictures on my phone, and you can, when you Google it, you'll see 1,000 sheep. Okay? And other people are starting to raise more sheep as well. So this is real. This is real taxes, real people, not somebody that says, I don't like the way solars look, and the property taxes are going down, the wildlife are dead. This is real things, okay? So I suggest you Google it and find out that all the land that's in there, there's only in some of the fields, not all, but some of the fields, it's about 40% in solar and 60% farmable. Some of them are a little more, but Google it and you'll see that there is grazing lands inside the fence, and what's outside the fence is for the sheep for during the winter, baling hay. That's the winter feed for the sheep. So it's grazing as well as the wildlife. Deer eat grass. Surely they can't count on deer eating the corn and beans, the 4-month grow period. So the wildlife is thriving around us. So I am for the Mammoth Grazing Project. And you can see that the financial benefits of the county is going to be very good. And you can also see when you drive up there, nobody lives up there. It's, we are an area where very few people live. So I'm for solar. Thank you.
The only two people that are talking there?
I mean, Mike, that's your decision. I don't know who officially is representing.
No, you're done?
That's all I have
Man.
until you take action on the actual resolution.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll start public comment. And I don't know. Whoever wants to go first, just let's keep it nice, Couple, 3 minutes. Who wants to go first? Just state your name and that's it.
I'm Jim Peru. I also own ground in Pulaski County, lived in Pulaski County for 50 years now, I think. I'm not a public speaker, so I like to put my thoughts down on paper. So if it's okay, I'll just read what I have written. It's just a single page here. Farming today can be a challenging way to make a living. Input costs are up, equipment costs are up, land prices and rent are all up. All of these costs provide challenges to the farmer, while the ability to pay for these inputs and make a living to raise a family are challenged by market fluctuations. If you are a successful student of the market, you might be able to land contracts to cover your input costs. However, even as good as you are, or even as good as you may be at marketing your crops, if the markets are down for an entire season, you could lose money at the end of the year. Because of potential financial volatility, most farmers look for ways to diversify their income, so a bad year in any sector of your diversification will not send you into bankruptcy. Solar is just one of those diversifications that allow our Pulaski County farmers to be financially successful. With most farmers that have leased land for solar, they have only leased a portion of their ground, so they are diversified between income from solar and income from the farming operation. Because let's face it, most farmers continue to fight drought, high cost, long hours, simply because they love the lifestyle. Let's also consider the solar fields themselves. This is not land taken out of production, but instead has allowed the farmer to diversify even further, utilizing fields with solar panels. Not only are they raising the crop called electricity, but they continue to farm around the outside perimeter of the field and utilize the field under the solar panels for raising sheep, goats, and even special breeds of pigs. I believe that makes the ground usage even more efficient than traditional farming. Another consideration is the ever-increasing demand for electricity in our society. Infrastructure for electric vehicles, charging stations, and large computer server software farms are going to make a significant impact on our demand for electricity. Where is the infrastructure to supply that demand? The coal-fired NIPSCO plant in Wheatfield will be closing in the next few years. No one wants a nuclear plant nearby. Natural gas-fired plants are still on the drawing boards and use precious non-renewable fuel. Therefore, the only alternative for future is taking advantage of our most abundant natural resources, solar and wind. My question to you is this: are you ready to position Pulaski County
to help provide the electric needs of this county, state, and nation while boosting our economy and giving farmers a chance to make enough money to raise their families while they still provide the crops the world needs to feed their people. I certainly hope you are farsighted enough to see that solar is a good thing for Pulaski County.
Thank you. Well, who wants to be next? Connie?
Mike,
Yep.
I'm Connie Ehrlich. I guess the reason why they're here in front of you tonight is for a tax abatement. They want to declare the land as a economic revitalization area, and that is the first step in order to get a tax abatement. I think you probably all remember that Mammoth Solar has already been given a 20-year tax abatement on personal property taxes, and then also a 10-year abatement on real estate taxes. So I guess they've already received abatement for the solar proponent. Now they're here tonight, from what briefly I've heard, for a grazing project. So we have a lot of farmers in the county that graze cattle, pigs, chickens, whatever. So why, I guess my question is, why are they entitled, or do they think they're entitled for tax abatement for grazing? We've already given them a very extensive tax abatements. So, you are privileged to more information than I am, certainly, but if you could please help us all understand why they want or need a tax abatement for grazing.
Spencer,
So,
could you come and address that? Because I think there might be some uncertainty that needs to be cleared up about the actual specifics of the project that might answer Connie's question.
So I think it's two things. The first would be, what has happened in the past has nothing to do with these parcels that we're talking about today. So essentially, these are new parcels that have to be eligible for an ERA. So putting that aside, the agrivoltaic kind of portion of this is solar as well as grazing, as well as all of the things that are required by the UDO or by this council to develop the project. So it's not just grazing, it's everything else as well.
Do you have an approximate expectation for the generating capacity for the proposed project?
Similar to Mammoth and Stark. The current. Similar to Mammoth and Pulaski.
Sorry, but that did not help my question. He's already received tax abatements for all the solar equipment and that project. Now he's coming back for, is it crop production too and grazing is what you're looking for tax abatement on?
No, Connie, what they're asking for is personal property, utility distributable personal property abatement on the equipment that they will install on the new batch of acreage, where they will be doing both solar generation and grazing or crop production.
Outside of the fence?
No, totally different parcels.
Totally different parcels?
Totally different parcels.
Okay, so that would require a new application because we can't materially change an application that's already in place.
Which they have already begun working on with the building department.
Okay, so what are some type of the things that would be abated? Is there
the same as the original Mammoth project or any other, the solar panels, the ancillary equipment? There's, to my knowledge, and in other discussions I've had, we're not looking at anything agricultural related being included in the abatement request. It's just the solar component. Whereas they will also be doing grazing on where they don't have the panels.
Okay, so the grazing project, can you walk us through what that's going to be?
I just believe, just like they already have done with Bill Bope's property in Stark County, in areas outside of the fencing and potentially in also, they will just have sheep grazing along with solar panels. So eating grass under the panels instead of mowing the grass. That is my understanding. And Spencer or a Doral representative is probably in a better position to answer than I am.
So would anyone who grazes livestock be entitled to?
No, they're not asking for an abatement for that component of it. They're asking for the solar generation property that they intend to install.
Okay. So on the new parcels that were not in the previous one
Yeah, they're just asking for the
that were
same.
granted?
Yeah, the same assessed value deduction on the same sort of equipment on additional parcels.
Okay.
That's,
Pretty confusing.
that's why I asked Spencer to try to clarify.
Nathan, you're correct, yeah. So
Yeah,
similar to what happened before, new parcels. The same request, correct.
My name is Bob Berger, and I'll be honest, I'm not really for the solar, but the simple fact is, if they keep getting tax abatements, this is wrong because my taxes went up last year. And I mean, I just don't think it's right that everybody else should be paying taxes and the solar's not paying any. I mean, this is part of the game. I mean, they got more money than Pulaski County's got. And
You know, I do not like to go question and answer, but I am going to say this, okay? You know, I don't like doing the question answer because I don't like that at all. But I know you, and you know, you've been to a lot of these meetings and everything. But here's what, you know, they got the tax abatement, okay? So we give them the tax abatement, and Baker Tilly studied this. It was some big place out in Indianapolis, you know, it gave us this big thing, cost a bunch of money. But anyway, they gave us what they call economic development payment, and it amounted to almost as much as the taxes. You know, they got a little deal, but not much. And so they got the economic development money, and then the county gets all that money. So, you know, they hate when I say this. So we cheated the schools and the libraries out of the money because the county gets all the money. Because, you know, if you look on your taxes, it always has the library gets a lot of money, the school gets a lot of money. Well, now the county got all the money. So the county's going to get, I don't know. Nathan, tell me how much money it is.
So I don't recall, I think over the 15-year period, so the way the EDA is structured for the Mammoth project, because it's such a substantial project in a longer term, they have an opt-out after 15 years. Through the first 15 years, I think it is a minimum of $24 million, and that assumes that they only produce the bare minimum that they agreed to pay if they meet the amount of production they said, it gets closer to 34 million. All of the projects combined, it's about $41 million minimum through that 15-year mark.
So they're going to get the I don't know, 41 million, but it's probably going to be, you know, 35 million. You know how it is. But, so we got that, but then like a farmer, his ground's worth, when you get taxed, I don't like to say all these numbers right off my head because Holly's not here to tell me, but it's like $1,200.
It's up to about 2,200 right now.
Okay, 2,200 is what a farmer gets taxed on. Well, and then when it goes to a utility, it's 10,000. So they have to pay a lot more tax.
I understand that.
Yeah, so
But they got a lot more money than we got.
well, yeah, I hope. But I'm just saying, I just don't want you to think they don't pay any tax because they are paying. They're paying an economic development agreement.
Well,
So to be fair with them, and just I don't know, I'm just trying
why
to
isn't our
explain it.
building inspector here? I mean, really? I mean,
Pardon?
because the simple fact, this has got permits and stuff they're supposed to have.
I didn't hear the first.
The building inspector, why isn't she involved in this more? Because they got in permits. I mean, he's been talking about permits and stuff, and I mean, Nathan's the one that does all the talking.
Yeah, I don't know where.
She is involved in this, but
Yeah.
the permitting side of it, the council has no oversight in that. That is all the commissioners and the plan commission.
But I don't like going back and forth. So go ahead. What? Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Magali Bope, and Pulaski County, resident of Pulaski County. I'm Dennis's wife. And I just want to add, you were mentioning about property taxes. And I just went into my taxes today. I would check the website, the Stark County, because like Dennis mentioned, we have 144 acres with solar. And I compared in 2023 for 144 acres, when it was agricultural land, it was almost 3,000 for property taxes. And I sent a letter to the county council, you received it, Mike, and I can make a copy of this also if you want it. And then in 2024, when the state decided to make it industrial, even though there is sheep and there is hay and there is whatever, it's still industrial. It went to almost 19,000. So there is a difference of $16,000 on 144 acres. So it's around $111 per acre more than, I don't know who receives the money. This is property taxes that this money was paid to Stark County last year. I have no idea how much it's going to be this year, but just for you to know. Another thing is this new project, but it's not new, it's the extension, the mammoth grazing lands. We have land in this extension. This land, like I mentioned before in another meeting, 347 acres, that is almost 300 for my in-laws and 50 or 60 for us. This land was in the Stark County project. So because of the suing and all the litigation, we couldn't be in that project because they needed to start, so they took us out. If Pulaski County, if we wouldn't have all that litigation that by the way, the opposition lost, the family would have had already $1 million because it was, it's $1,000 an acre, it's 350 acres for almost 3 years. So the county would have already enjoyed taxes for income tax on $1 million. I don't know numbers, but you can figure it out. So it's property taxes, it's income taxes, is money. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Oh, yeah, Chris. Be nice. Remember, that's the new rule. I just tease you. I know you. Go ahead.
Yes, we did.
Go ahead.
Just a couple questions. First of all, I had the same thing. Where's Carla? She still should be here to answer some questions, or at least communicate better. I think there's a little bit of a lack of communication, and Nathan's not going to give me eye contact on that, but we've spoke on that. Secondly,
remember the be nice part?
It's kindness week. I'm being kind. I didn't say anything bad. Jeff, you've mentioned in past meetings that Holly needs some equipment to assess acres. You were talking about it. I remember you mentioning it. You didn't know how much it costs. I think maybe there might be a couple of you that could get together and work on this and start meeting with Carla and make sure that she has this. I think all of this is happening so fast, there's a lot of confusion. And if we're supposed to be getting X amount of dollars, how is she assessing that ground? Or Holly? For tax reasons, how does she know what acres is where? Because we mentioned that last Thursday again. There's just a lot of confusion on that. Sometimes when you look on DocsPop, the acres aren't matching up with the parcels and the DocsPop, and it's really confusing. And I think you are spot on that Holly could benefit from that equipment. Do you remember talking about that, Jeff? No, just because I just think there's so much, it's so confusing that I think that maybe a couple of you could work together outside of here and.
I think what she's trying to say is the stuff's not coming down the line, starting with the building inspector, recorder, and the assessor.
Yeah, I just think it could be a little bit.
And because we contracted with VS Engineering, that is the goal, is to have them, hold on, I'm talking.
I know, yeah, I'm not saying anything. Go ahead.
So that's the whole point, is to have that point company for our department heads, so that when there's questions about solar, they can go to VS Engineering, and they've talked to Carla. Carla's related to them. They've talked to the recorder's talked to them. So we have a point person regarding all these things.
Third meeting here in the last week and a half.
She has the flu.
So send somebody else. She works with her husband. I'm just saying communication and letting everyone know.
She did communicate that she wouldn't be here because she had the flu. It's going around.
Oh.
Okay.
Thanks.
Gary,
I can tell you that the assessor.
Well, I think we're about done.
She gets a copy of the resolution.
Nope, one more.
Includes the maps and descriptions of all of the parcels. Sorry, I'm trying to. Yeah, so she does get that.
Candy Meyer, Winnemac, or Pulaski County. I just want something clarified, and Nathan touched on this. We will be getting payments from the solar directly rather than through our property taxes. Is that correct?
Economic development payments.
Right,
I hate
you'll go
going
into
back
the
and forth with
CDC
paper.
rather than come through our tax. Not to you
No,
personally.
it goes into a designated fund that the council still has to appropriate.
Right.
So I don't remember how the council's, resolution was
We made a
adopted.
fund with four, like, to give four subcategories.
So there's one fund with four subcategories that all of those funds go into. But yeah,
Right,
Mike maybe was a little unclear when he joked that we cheat the schools and libraries.
rather than on
Yeah.
property
But
taxes.
yes,
Because on property taxes, so much of it has to go to our schools and libraries. So we don't want to fund our schools
No,
and
so that's-
libraries. We want a bunch of
No,
stupid.
that's not how it works in the state of Indiana.
That's what you're saying?
Yeah, I will explain. Indiana law mandates what is called the maximum levy. So every year, each taxing unit within the county has a maximum amount of money that it can generate in property taxes. There are a few exceptions, but the great bulk of the property taxes you pay.
But we're taking
No,
away
no.
from our schools.
We are not. We are not.
In reality.
No, we're not. I'm going to explain how we're not.
Then why not do it through property taxes?
So let's say the maximum levy for simple numbers is $1 million that the county collects from every piece of personal property that is taxed and every acre that is taxed in the county. It's $1 million this year. Next year, it will increase to $1.1 million. Let's say next year, one of these solar projects goes online and it has no abatements, it has a taxing liability of $200,000. We only get half of that because the maximum levy says we can only generate 1.1 million. We don't get the other 200,000. They will pay it, excuse me, but it will just reduce everybody else's property tax bills, which is not a bad thing. But we don't end up cheating because they are all subject to the same rules of the maximum levy. So the Eastern Pulaski Schools levy, say it's $500,000. If it increases to $600,000, there's no solar project at all. Next year it goes from $500,000 to $600,000. All the taxpayers within the Eastern Pulaski School District are going to contribute to that $600,000. Mammoth comes in, let's say they have a tax liability due to the school of $25,000. They're not going to pay that $25,000 because they've gotten the abatement and maybe they write a $20,000 check directly to the county. You all are still paying that extra $100,000 just like you would have been if the project didn't exist at all. So, except in very limited scenarios where they are what are called rate-driven funds rather than levy-driven funds, or if they have so many properties in their district that go above the circuit breaker on their individual property, the schools don't get cheated. The libraries don't get cheated. It's just one fewer taxpayer or X number of parcels that are not contributing to it, but that money is not taken away from them. So all the schools, townships, libraries, county, towns, all get their share just on a slightly smaller pool of taxpayers. And then the county gets the economic development payments on top of that it can use as it sees fit, including supporting town or school or township programs if the council thinks it's appropriate. At the end of the day,
But nobody's property taxes go down because we're getting a lot of
Well,
money from property taxes.
that depends.
From the solar
That
company.
depends on two things. Exactly how many acres, as Mike was mentioning earlier, how many acres that are inside the fences go to that higher assessed value. So an acre of farm is about 2,200 acre, I think, this year base value. When it converts to solar, it is $13,000 an acre value. So Mammoth may not be paying taxes on the solar panels, but they are still paying taxes on the $10,800 increment where the value has increased. So Mammoth is still paying taxes on that. So if the total incremental increase on land value for solar projects leads to a greater tax bill than the increase in the maximum levy, then your taxes will still go down. At the very least, because of all of that land reassessment, the way your taxes would go up if the solar project didn't exist because of the natural annual growth will be slowed because of all the excess assessed value being created by the land reclassification. So they don't pay taxes on the equipment if they get the abatement, but they pay taxes on a much higher assessed value on the land, regardless of any abatement or lack of abatement on the equipment.
So they don't pay taxes
They pay
on their
tax.
solar.
Hey, we're gonna
panels.
have to move along. We gotta get done
Oh,
tonight.
I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
thought this was a.
You are correct.
It is. That's why we have more people here. Anybody else want to talk? Gary does. He was the first one up and I
I'll
shunned
be
him.
brief.
Sorry.
I'll be brief. So I just got to remind everybody that,
What's your name?
oh, sorry. Gary Welker, landowner, Pulaski County. So I guess I'd like to remind everybody that we've been using the sun for a long time, right? Because crops are nothing more than biological solar panels, right? And so, but they use a lot of energy to produce a crop, right? And so that energy is production of all equipment, production of actually putting the crop out, planting, spraying, harvesting, hauling, storage, drying, hauling it again. So the ROI on that fluctuates, right? In 2025, farmers are going to have a really sharp pencil to make a profit, right? And the end result is the vast majority of that crop winds up in the energy system anyway, because a lot of it goes to ethanol or to biodiesel, right? The difference is we're diversifying on some of these acres and we're going to produce electricity, also energy, and not the traditional way, right? The ROI is stable, right? We know we're going to get paid, right? And so that's a big benefit to our landowners. The second thing, it opens up other opportunities, and this is that agrovoltaics, right? And so this is part of this, grazing that we're talking about. So sheep, pasture pigs, there's opportunity that's not grazing, honeybees for pollinators, honey production. So these are all auxiliary type of opportunities for somebody that may not even be in the project can get involved, right? So not us landowners, somebody else that can get in this business, because I'm not going to raise sheep, right? I'm retiring soon. And there's opportunity for vegetative management, right? And that's part of the grazing, but there'll be mowing involved in these acres too, right? And so this agrivoltaics is a big deal, right? Because right now there's going to be a Purdue Mammoth Education Center. They're going to look at research, because I just mentioned a few things that there's potentially lots of other opportunities that will be encompassed in this agrivoltaics. And in approval of this is the American Farm Bureau is prioritizing agrivoltaics as in their policy book, right? And so this is really good. And then again, we're still farming traditionally outside the fences, right? We're still going to do all those things that we've always done, but it opens up a lot of opportunities that wouldn't exist if we didn't have this. And again, it stabilizes income for us landowners, but it also adds lots of new money to Pulaski County.
Anybody else? We'd probably like to get it ready to vote here pretty soon on something. One more, or well, however many more.
Okay, I just would like to kind of try to summarize this, and because I'm having a hard time putting this together in my mind. So we're talking about grazing, and we're talking about on 8,000 acres. Is that correct?
We're not gonna do the questions. That was a dumb idea.
All right, sorry, Mike, I'm gonna put you on the, all right, we're talking 8,000 acres. We're talking grazing. This grazing is going to be inside the fence. I'm assuming it's the farmers or whoever owns it is getting the money from the grazing, the tax abatement. They've already gotten, I'm a little confused. There's already tax abatement to the company for putting the solar in, and now we're going to get money for farmers because they're going to graze livestock. So that needs clarified, because it isn't making sense. So then that's why the earlier question about, can anybody ask for a tax abatement because they're going to graze They're beef cattle. So this is kind of murky.
They're not giving any tax abatement for grazing sheep. Right, Nathan? That's for the,
So
they
what,
told us 2 times that they're gonna do it on the panels, and that's what they wanted. That's what
So
the
why is
whole
it
thing
called
is. We're not
grazing?
giving anything tonight. We're just doing a study.
why is it called, then I think we should take grazing out and just say we're doing a solar project.
Well, when you apply, I guess you can do that. Thank you.
Well, that's just, I don't know where grazing comes in. If grazing has nothing to do with recouping any kind of funds or tax abatement, then let's just call it solar.
I think the man was here to show us this in Stark County, to show us there's other things to go around panels than, they're going to raise sheep and stuff. He just wants to show it's pro ag. That's Connie's thing from Thursday. Made me laugh. Okay. Any more? Nathan, it's up to you. Public comments closed.
I mean, it's in the council, the ball's in the council's court now, whether you want to adopt or reject Resolution 2025-05, 2025-06, one or both, what action you want to take tonight. 2025-05 again is for the, let me find the right number, 684.56 acres that they want to add to the original Mammoth project. And then 2025-06 is for the, and I'm going to have to make a correction to that before we can, 7,686.7844 acres for the newly proposed Mammoth Grazing Lands solar project.
So the public knows they're paying for the study
Yes, that will be required.
at a 10% upcharge.
I don't know that that's a development ordinance rule. I don't know that that applies to these projects. I think this is just pay what cost is incurred.
Okay. Entertain a motion?
Nathan, I got a question.
Yes.
How many acres, how many acres we've already given a tax abatement?
Total encompassed acres would be about 18,000, give or take, including any that are outside the fence, inside the fence. But the total pay that have come through, I take that back. It's closer to 15 or 16 because there's one project that has been moving forward that does not have a tax abatement. So about 18,000 so far committed to projects that have begun or completed the permitting process. 15-ish of those have included abatements.
Who is going forward without a tax abatement?
That is the Mayapple project by Lightsource BP.
See, to me, there's already a company that said, yeah, tax abatement ain't worth it. We're gonna move forward. County's pretty easy to work with, so we're gonna move in.
Are they,
So I don't understand why we're gonna give a tax abatement when we already got the easy road for them.
is that project doing its economic development payment?
No.
So they're not giving us an economic development payment.
Correct.
That's why they didn't ask for a tax abatement.
We can get our own economic.
No, we can't. We don't just get an economic development payment. It's part of the agreement. So that's in lieu of a tax abatement, they pay us an economic development agreement. So we get the money and we put it in county general, or actually it doesn't go in county general, it goes in a fund we've created. And we can spend the money on, it has no restrictions.
Sounds like we're gonna lose a lot of money. Tax abatement.
No, AJ, we won't. That's the whole point of my explanation of the maximum levy. The county doesn't lose money just because of a tax, whether it's a project like this or it's an expansion
I
at
make a motion
Franco.
to put it to a vote.
You make a motion, vote on it,
Yes.
accept?
I didn't
Proceed?
say accept.
To
Put it to a
proceed?
vote, yes. Proceed to vote. I both.
Here, second?
Second.
Got a motion, second to deny it. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand.
Deny.
3. Who does not want to deny it? Oh, 3.
Tie goes
What
to
we
the
do
loser.
now? A good thing
Tie
we have
goes to the
counsel
loser,
here.
Mike. Because
That-
you just have to have a majority in favor of it. Tie goes to the loser.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, did not pass. So what's the next thing on our? We need to approve the minutes, the regular meeting minutes for 1/13/2024. 5. Typo.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I got a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll
Here,
second. Second.
I got a second. Motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Encumbrances for 2024. We're going to table the encumbrances. They're not here right now. So then we got the transfers. We approved some of that already? Circuit.
That was an error on the other.
Oh, that's right. That was already done. Aye. So we need a motion to approve the transfer for the prosecutor and assessor if anybody wants to do that.
I'll make a motion. And, the other one,
Assessor.
assessor transfers.
By second? Okay, Jerry, second. Got a motion second to approve the transfers for the prosecutor and assessor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Now we got advertise additional. We already talked about that one. Any discussion? Board reports? Anybody go to any board meetings? Any public comment? Public comment? Motion adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Second. I got a motion second adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Aye.